Okay, let's dive into this. If you've spent any time online lately, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You see the rented cars, the flashy screenshots, and that promise of a life totally free from the 9 to 5 grind. It's the super seductive dream of passive income, and it's pitched as the ultimate financial cheat code.
And, our source material just puts it perfectly here. The reality of passive income is often way less glamorous than its profile picture. It's a really tempting sales pitch, but it's one that's hiding a much more complicated and honestly, a much more dangerous truth.
So that's the big question we're going to tackle today. We're going to look right past all the marketing fluff and get into the actual mechanics of how these systems really work, and, more importantly, who they're really benefiting.
And to do that, we're going to use this metaphor of peeling back the layers of a financial onion, starting with the really niche schemes and moving all the way to the ones that are hiding in plain sight, probably on your favorite shopping apps.
Okay, so let's start with that first, shiny outer layer, the promise itself. What exactly is being sold here, and how does it possibly stack up against the financial reality of it all? So on the left, you've got the dream, right? Freedom, retiring super young, this effortless stream of cash. But on the right, that's the reality our source material digs into. These are systems built on debt, on speculative bubbles, and basically on old financial traps that have just been given a slick new marketing makeover.
And that brings us to our first real layer of the onion, the world of proprietary trading firms, or what people call prop firms. And this is a massive industry that has just absolutely exploded in popularity lately.
And when I say massive, I mean it. We're talking about a $12 billion industry. Now, what's so fascinating here is that this huge valuation is built almost entirely on selling people the dream of becoming a master trader.
So how's it work? Well, it's a simple and frankly a pretty brutal process. First, you pay a fee, sometimes hundreds of dollars, for what they call a challenge, but you're just trading in a demo account. The rules are incredibly strict and the profit targets are really high. If you break even one rule or miss that target, you're out, and they just keep your money.
And here it is. This is the crucial point. The entire business model is not built on finding trading talent. It's built on failure. A staggering 93% of participants fail the challenge. That means these firms are profiting directly from all those fees without ever having to risk a single dime of their own capital.
Okay, but what about the winners? Surely that elite 7% are making a fortune, right? Well, not exactly. For the tiny few who actually pass and get a so-called funded account, the average return is just 4%. I mean, that barely even keeps up with a risk-free U.S. Treasury bond.
And this whole setup perfectly illustrates a statistical principle called gambler's ruin. The theory's pretty simple. Even if you have a small edge, if you play long enough against a house with basically infinite money, a bad streak is gonna happen, and you will eventually lose everything. The prop firm is the house, and the house, well, it always wins.
All right, let's peel back the next layer of this onion. And here, we find the world of cryptocurrency, which, as you know, is often pitched as the ultimate decentralized path to wealth.
The engine driving so much of the speculative side of crypto is this right here, the greater fool theory. It's the simple idea that you can buy something that's way overvalued because you believe you can sell it to someone else, a greater fool, for even more money down the road.
So much for decentralization, right? I mean, this slide just lays bare the stark reality of who owns what. While crypto gets marketed as this new financial system for everybody, the top 2% of Bitcoin addresses control a mind-boggling 95% of the total supply. The power isn't distributed at all. It's incredibly concentrated at the top.
So, you see the problem. The promise of a revolution against the banks runs smack into the reality that it has almost no real-world use for, say, buying groceries. The decentralized utopia is actually a system where the 2% have almost all the power. And the future of finance? Well, it starts to look a lot like a machine that just breaks down the second that new greater fools stop showing up to buy in.
Okay, now for our third and final layer. And this one is the most mainstream and maybe the most sneaky. The buy now, pay later services that have become a totally standard option at checkout pretty much everywhere. These companies love to frame their services as financial empowerment. They're giving you flexibility. They're giving you control. But we really have to ask the question, is financing a pair of sneakers or a concert ticket really empowerment, or is it just another way to get into debt? And the data from our source shows this huge disconnect. You can see on the left, about 15% of Americans have used these services. But look at the bar on the right. A massive 40% of those users ended up regretting it. That convenience you feel at checkout often comes with the sting of buyer's remorse and unexpected fees later on.
So here's the bottom line. Buy now, pay later isn't some revolutionary new financial tool. It's the same old model of consumer debt, just repackaged with a slick app and a super seamless one-click user interface.
And when we put all these layers together, the trading traps, the crypto speculation, the convenient debt, we finally get to the core of the onion. And what we find is this deep cultural shift away from long-term saving and toward short-term financing.
And look, this isn't some niche problem that's only affecting a few people online. The consequence is macroeconomic. Total household debt in the U.S. has ballooned to a truly staggering $18.6 trillion. This quote from the source material just perfectly captures the entire issue. This obsession we have with easy, passive money isn't creating wealth. It's just fueling a culture of instant gratification that's built on a mountain of debt.
So, what should you really take away from all this? Well, the real cost is crystal clear. We're being encouraged to trade disciplined, long-term wealth building for a quick hit. We're blurring the lines between what's actually investing and what's just high-risk gambling, and we're choosing easy debt over the much harder but much more rewarding path of saving.
And all this leaves us with a final provocative thought. Every single one of these systems, from prop firms to crypto to buy now, pay later, they all rely on a continuous stream of new people to keep the game going. The question is, how long can that possibly last? Is there a point on the horizon where the machine finally and completely runs out of fuel?